Hey, this is Ryan Phillips here, and this is my game last night against Michael Graves over at the Chess Club. It's kind of been a tough tournament for me after the after a nice performance in the National Open. I kind of haven't played particularly well. Uh, I'd say I guess I just didn't play particularly well in my last week against Scott Raymond. I thought my first round game against Glenn was okay. Even though I lost, it wasn't a terribly played game. I think I just kind of made a pretty illogical move with G3. And then last night I was able to win, but I wasn't particularly happy with my play, particularly in the opening. I didn't think it was very logical or good play at all. Before I begin with the video, I just wanted to thank or congratulate Chad and Hugo for shared first place in this tournament, and Diego and Romer for shared first place in the under section. Looks like a lot of people are playing pretty tough heading to the Palazzo tournament this next weekend, which everyone is really looking forward to, and it sounds like participation sounds really great amongst the people I've talked to. Anyone who watched this video who's not signed up yet, I think you should. I'm biased, of course, but I think you should definitely sign up. It's a fairly reasonable price for the prize funds. $35 for a chance to win 700 in the open section is pretty reasonable in my opinion. And I don't think we've played at a venue as nice as Palazzo. At least I don't believe I have. This is real exciting, and I think it'll be a great tournament. And we have a lot of support with the Mind Sports International crew going to they're sponsoring the event and kind of running it to some extent as far as the technology for the video equipment, stuff like that. Even though Juan is the official organizer of the actual chess event, and then there's other organizers for the other Mind Sports competitions like Go, Mahjong, Scrabble, Magic, and I think there might have been one more that I can't recall right now. Anyway, though, on to the game. So, being a man of my word, I am definitely trying to broaden my horizons with opening play. So I open with d4. This is extremely rare for me, but there was a stretch, I'd say, a couple of years ago. I think maybe I was having like an identity crisis or something where I was starting to play d4 a little bit. And my results weren't particularly good, so I kind of gave it up. But then recently I started thinking, well, just because the results are poor for a short period of time doesn't mean I should abandon trying to learn more ideas about chess. And that's the purpose. The purpose isn't just be like, oh, I can beat my opponent with any opening. I'm not trying to be like egotistical. That's not the idea. The idea in my mind is just basically to just try to expand the amount of patterns I know and the amount of different ways I can coordinate my pieces, because I think this is the best way, even when I go back to my typical openings, because I am open to the idea of playing anything at any time, but I don't think this is anything too revealing. In the important games, I will probably play the stuff that I'm pretty familiar with, and the stuff that I'm pretty familiar with, I don't feel like I'm improving if I'm just playing the same openings over and over. So hopefully, even in the openings that I play regularly, I can come up with some different piece configurations, and by playing completely different openings instead of playing e4 by playing d4. I think I'm going to be forced to learn how to coordinate my pieces in different ways, which seems to me to be the way the top players play. Like you watch Carlsen, Aroni, and Nakamura, they're always developing their pieces in different and unique ways. Not to say by doing this I'll be at their skill level, but I think I can't do anything but help my game in the long run. As long as I'm not discouraged by short-term results if they become slightly negative, as long as I keep the big picture in mind, I think I'll be fine. So Michael opened with d6. Which really frustrated me because he's basically tempting me to go into an e4 opening. I know. I think I saw a book. I believe Michael Thurber before he passed away. Unfortunately, I think he was telling me about this c4 e5 line as being pretty good for black, pretty close to equalizing. So I really rejected c4 immediately. I really didn't want to play an e4 game just because that would defeat the purpose of opening with d4. I could have transposed into a perk, of course, but I decided to play knight f3. So basically, the idea with knight f3 is just to stop black from playing e5, where of course he'll just drop a pawn if he plays that here. So then Michael played e6, which so at this point I had a couple of thoughts that I thought were reasonable. So basically, it was kind of like a double-edged coin. On one side of the coin, I was thinking that Michael was either saying he's basically saying that let's see if I'm any good if you take me out of opening theory. So he's basically saying, you know, if let's go out of your preparation, out of a memorized line, and see if you're any good if you could play chess. So that's more of like an aggressive interpretation that he might have been doing, which is possible interpretation. Maybe there's another reasonable idea that he doesn't think he could play with me in a normal opening, so he definitely avoided book. And then also maybe he just doesn't know book that well at all, so he wanted to play something offbeat, and he thought this would give him his best chance at victory. So the only thing that I could say good about this is that maybe psychologically, this is somewhat advantageous. Because basically he's kind of he's waving the red flag in front of the bull. It's basically like, I'm playing very passively. I want you to attack me. I want you to overextend, and then I'm gonna fight back. Which is kind of what happened. Unfortunately, I did overextend a little bit, but nothing too severe. But again, I wasn't happy with my opening play. So when he's playing moves like this, it's really hard to figure out. He's just basically saying, I'm going to make this kind of a locked position. I'm not going to do anything, and we're going to see if you know how to handle this. There was a challenge posed to me. So at this point, I felt kind of forced to play e4, even though I still didn't want to play e4. But after d6 and e6, I basically have to take the classical pawn formation. So he played knight e7. So if Ed's watching this video, I think he'll be pissed that I didn't win quicker. But I think that's kind of what my opponent wants me to be thinking, is that I'm supposed to be slaughtering them, which I should. I think I should, especially with the white pieces. When your opponent plays this passively, I should come up with something pretty strong. But I think the way I handled everything was all right. So anyway, bishop d3. So I like this developing move. Just get the bishop onto an active post. I thought bishop on c4 would be pretty pointless with the pawn on e6. So bishop d3 seemed the most logical. Bishop e2 was playable, of course, but I thought this was a little bit more active, and now I could castle. So even though my opponent played passively, I want to just kind of abide by the principles of chess, get my pieces out and castle, and see what happens. So here he played knight d7. And then I think I played a really significant mistake here. Very, very significant. I played e5, which I think is a terrible move. Basically, the idea is I wanted to have a piece formation where I'm threatening the Greek gift over on h7. But my opponent's still 3 moves away from castling, and there's no guarantee he's going to even castle kingside. So maybe a move like e5 would be a lot more practical, a lot better if my opponent's already castled kingside. Then I have a nice formation for a Greek gift on h7. So for those who don't know, bishop takes h7, king takes h7, knight g5, and then usually king's forced to come to g6, and then queen g4, and then this is a very common pattern for chess players. So, and then black would probably be pretty close to busted. Although you have to be careful, sometimes it doesn't work. I know there was a big debate in one of Karpov's games when he showed a position where he didn't think it would work. So, so it depends, of course, just like any chess position, on the exact placement of the pieces. So here my opponent could have played d takes e5, when I actually would have taken back with the knight. I didn't like this variation of knight c5, so I was playing a taking back with the knight, which computer still shows as equalizing, if actually even slightly better for black. So if black opens this passively and they're equalizing on the 8th move, I really screwed up, and I think e5 is that significant screw up. So I definitely regret playing this move. So then here Michael played h6. So basically I think he's just kind of, I don't know, it's almost like, it feels taunting to me, to be perfectly honest. I think he's kind of taunting me that I can't really do anything, and he's basically just trying to make as passive a step as possible. Already at this point I was seeing ideas of trying to get a knight into d6 and mate my opponent. So I was hoping there would be some kind of possible brilliancy in this game at some point, but it never quite materialized. So I just developed knight b to d2. So this is just kind of the idea: get the knight to c4 or e4 and put some pressure on the d6 pawn. Of course, I thought c4 was a better square because I anticipated my opponent would push with d5, and then I'd put the knight back on e3. And I thought it could be potentially an aggressive piece at some point. Maybe even swing knight over to g4 and put some pressure on the black king side if black castles that way. But it is tricky to face this because black really hasn't signaled any intentions of where they plan on castling. They haven't really given me any indication of what plan they're going to embark on. They basically just said, I'm going to play really passive and see what happens. So here Michael played another passive move at a6. And then maybe I should have played sharper, but I played a4. So I think my mentality at this point of the game was good, because basically he's kind of goading me into doing something extremely aggressive. So I thought just playing natural moves that would improve my position slowly but surely was the way to go. So I figured the idea for my opponent was for me to be like overly aggressive, rush in, like fools rush in, I guess. So I just decided to be patient and just gradually improve my position and see what happened. So he played b6, and so here I kind of released attention, maybe prematurely, but I released it with e takes d6, and then c takes d6 I believe is forced, unless you want to sacrifice a pawn, which I thought about this idea. I didn't think it was particularly good. So c takes d6, and then I played knight c4, which I overlooked knight d5 immediately. I saw knight d5, but I thought my opponent would play, I thought it was going to go something like this. I thought the position. And the computer showing this is equal, but I thought practically that this was a little bit easier for white to play because of the pressure on the d6 pawn. So I saw knight d5. I didn't see that my opponent would play it here though. So that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. And then here I kind of realized that my position is not so far superior to my opponent, and that even with my opponent's real passive and real terrible opening play, it only made 2 piece moves in the first 8 moves, that I basically allowed my opponent to equalize. So that was kind of frustrating, but I still felt confident I could outplay my opponent from this position. So I castled, bishop b7, so this is logical. And now it's almost kind of like a hedgehog formation. So yeah, it's very similar to a hedgehog formation here. I think bishop e7, if this knight was on f6, that's the hedgehog, with this pawn not on h6 and the king castled. So it's interesting the way my opponent played it. He didn't do anything too aggressive, but he kind of has a nice hedgehog formation anyway. So I played c3 just to keep the knight out of b4 and potentially play queen c2 at some point, or even retreat the bishop back to c2 or b1. Queen c7, and then basically forcing the bishop to stay on this on the f1 a6 diagonal temporarily. So I can't play a move like bishop c2, of course, because my knight will hang. So rook e1, bishop e7, and I played h3 kind of just as a waiting move because I didn't really know what to do. I was thinking about rebounding my knight to h2 and then bringing the queen out, but apparently Ripka showed this as the best move, which I was very surprised. I didn't really think this move did much. I just thought it was a nice waiting move, see what my opponent did, and I really have nowhere else to move this knight to. The bishop takes away the advance post, and my own pieces are blocking any retreats. So I figured h3 was the only way to reroute this knight into the game, because I didn't think it was doing too much on f3 anymore, and I want to get my queen out if possible, maybe to g4. Even though I didn't really care for this idea of queen g4, to be honest, because I just thought like knight 7 to f6 or knight 5 to f6 is good, because if I take the pawn, then rook h7 is going to trap the oh no, I think the queen can retreat, but I didn't think this was particularly that great of an idea, but it was really the best I can kind of come up with in this position after I kind of butchered the opening. So here my opponent made a very significant mistake, I think. Castling queenside, I think, is just a terrible move. The king's going to be very exposed on the c file. It's easy for me to get pressure over here onto the queen side, I think. My king is castle king side, so I could start pushing my pawns at some point. So I just thought this was really bad for my opponent. So I played knight e3. So really the idea is just to get rid of the only nice piece that my opponent has. So this knight on d5 is the only piece that I'm really worried about. So I figured that if I could dislodge that piece and then kind of push c4, get this bishop, dark square bishop developed, and put a rook on c1, this would be pretty tough. Even though it takes a few moves for me to implement this plan, I thought it was something that would be tough for my opponent to deal with. And I also thought it contained a nice little trap that I hoped my opponent would fall for, which he did. So he played knight f4, which I think is a blunder. And computer showing bishop f1 here, but I think knight f5 was a very strong move. So I played knight f5 here. And the idea is actually kind of tricky. So I was worried about this variation. And then my knight's basically trapped here, so I wasn't thinking that this was I didn't think knight f5 was necessarily decisive, but I thought it would give me a pull. I was even And I even considered knight g6 here. I thought was a reasonable move as well. Just winning a pawn and kind of messing up the black pawn structure a little bit. So my opponent didn't play knight takes d3. I also looked at bishop g5, which is the best move according to the computer. But I thought just I was surprised that just taking isn't better. I thought this would be better than I guess it is. And I think I have the same worries about my knight getting trapped. I think if I take here, my knight doesn't really have too many squares he can go to. Actually, I don't see any. So I think something like this, I could be in trouble. So I looked at bishop g5. I thought that I might have some resources against this, but I'm not sure. I looked at this variation also. Bishop takes f4. Bishop takes, and then I thought that this was good because I could retreat the knight to back to h5 if necessary. So computer showing h5 as being the best move to stop my knight from having anywhere to go to, and this might be difficult because my knight is in trouble again. So this is one variation that possibly could have happened in the game. Luckily for me, my opponent just took the knight on f5, which I think was a very significant mistake also. And I just took the knight on f4 with my bishop. And here I thought the game is basically, if I play well, I'm going to win. My opponent really can't hold this position, I think. The fact of the matter is the f5 pawn is hanging, e7 bishop's hanging, and this bishop on f4 is a really nice piece, I thought, because it's pinning the d6 pawn can't move. So I thought all in all my position was excellent here, which computer backs up. So my opponent played bishop f6. And here actually, my initial reaction was to play bishop f5, which I ended up playing. But I had some other ideas that kind of crept into my mind in this position for some reason. I was looking at queen d3, b3 for a while. I don't know why. I guess it's better than I thought, but I thought maybe just take here. I don't know. Even though my pawn structure is weak, I guess I was maybe overly concerned about this, so I kind of rejected queen b3 on this basis. But I spent a lot of time looking at queen b3. I thought it was a pretty difficult threat to meet because I'm obviously hitting the f7 pawn. So say to defend that. And then so I had this queen a3 or queen b4 idea to hit this pawn on d6. And then so basically I looked at queen b3 for a while, and I guess I was just overly worried about bishop takes f3 because I was looking at this for a while, and then I saw that my opponent could play bishop takes f3, and then I kind of rejected it or just off of that principle. So maybe I didn't analyze deep enough in this position. But bishop takes f5 I liked because it seemed so simple to me and clear cut, so I didn't think there's anything bad about this move either. So here my opponent played g6, and then I just retreated bishop back to d3. I considered bishop e4 for a while, but I thought the exchange of the bishops didn't benefit me that much. I thought it would be nice to get rid of the my opponent's light square bishop since it is the only kind of minor piece protecting the king. It's not on d7, it's kind of clumsy. Maybe it provides some protection for the king, but I didn't see it being too productive at the moment. So it was kind of attractive to me, bishop e4 on that grounds. But I thought bishop d3 was a little bit better. I thought my bishop was still better than his light square bishop. So in this move, my opponent played g5. So I think I could feel he was going to go out for a desperation attack here. I thought he was going to push like h5, g4, which he did. And I had to calculate this to make sure I was okay. But I felt I was fine, and I just had to come up with something concrete to demonstrate that. So I played bishop h2. So just keeping this bishop on a nice diagonal. I thought bishop h2 was a little better than bishop g3 because then h5, h4. I don't know. I didn't want to let my opponent's kingside pawns advance if I didn't have to. So bishop h2 I thought was a little better. Here my opponent played h5, and then I played knight d2. So the idea is really just to get to c4. It's possible to get to e4, but I think if the light square bishop trades it off, that's okay for black. So here my opponent played g4. And I think maybe in retrospect queen c6 would have been a little bit better, maybe. I don't know. But g4. So I played knight c4. And then my opponent played queen c6. So he's basically just hoping that I missed the checkmate on g2. So I took here. And then he played king b8. So basically king b8 or king c7 or force if he doesn't want to give up the queen. So king b8. And then here I'm kind of disappointed in myself. I actually saw bishop e4 and I thought it was slightly better than knight takes b7. But I ended up going with knight takes b7. I kind of talked myself out of bishop e4. I don't know why exactly. I think bishop e4 is a little bit better. So I took, and then my opponent took, which is a really bad move. But it's hard to really suggest an alternative. I guess king a7 seems like the most logical move. But either way, it's totally busted at this point. So he took, and I took. I played out bishop e4. So now the queen is pinned to the king, and my rook is protecting the bishop. So in this position, my opponent resigned. So all in all, I think it was an okay game I played. I don't think it was anything special or one of my better games. Maybe like a B, solid B rating for this game. I think I don't know if I'm allowed to give away secrets, but Glenn and I have been playing a lot of blindfold chess, and same thing with Jay-Z, Jonathan Savala. We've been playing a lot, and it's really helping me a lot. I could tell already. Just the way I'm able to coordinate my pieces in my head is significantly better, and yeah, I was disappointed in my game against Scott last week, but I think he was due for a win against me, and my game against Glenn the first time was okay, I thought. So I'm excited. I think my future's bright. I think after the National Open, I kind of made a point. I don't know where my chess future is going to go. I'm still kind of having those feelings. I'm not really sure what I really want out of chess at this point. Obviously, like winning tournaments is the goal, and it's nice. But at the same point, I really would like to improve. I don't want to just be a 1900 player forever. And for that matter, I don't really just want to be like a 2000 player forever. I like to kind of move up 21, 2200. And at the same time, I think I try to live a pretty balanced life. So I also want to focus on other things. So I think this blindfold chess is nice because I can basically work on chess whenever I want, even without a board, and I can come up with new ideas. Once I get good at it, I'm not at that point yet, but once I get good at it, that's the hope. And yeah, I think there's gonna be hopefully a significant jump in my play sometime soon. And then after that, it's just basically kind of getting like a little bit more mentally tough at the board. Sometimes I see games, and I have to admit, I think some of my contemporaries are a little bit more mentally tough. Where I feel like if I got into a certain position, I might kind of I wouldn't give up. That's definitely not what I would do. But I feel like I would feel a lot tenser than my opponents do. They seem to kind of play very calmly in tough positions, and that's something I really want to work on. So hopefully I won't get in tough positions. But when I do, I want to fight a little bit better than I do, I think. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on. Also realizing that you're gonna have if you're playing good players, you're not gonna just be able to bully them over. They're gonna push back, and you have to be able to handle that as well. But anyway, definitely excited for Palazzo. As far as I know, I'll be doing some commentating when I'm not playing, and I'm hoping that's okay. Juan said that's all right, but I am a little worried, to be honest, that the Mind Games people will want someone that's going to be able to comment on the games while they're in progress, which I won't be able to do, unfortunately. So I'm hoping there's kind of a system where when I'm done with my game, if someone was commentating, they let me kind of take over the reins at that point, if that's okay with them and the Mind Sports people and everyone else. So I'm hoping we kind of have a system like that. But it should be great. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be broadcast on their website, which will be accessible around the world. And it looks like the technology is great. I was looking at their Facebook page, and it looks like they actually have like a pretty impressive professional kind of like setup with the equipment and everything. And the videos they have made have been awesome. I'm kind of curious how they edited them, because I have a few friends that are into videography and stuff, and do some editing. So I was thinking about asking them if they knew what kind of stuff they were using. I know usually like Final Cut Pro and Premiere are the two most common editing programs. But anyway, this is kind of off topic now. I thank you for watching, and hope everyone turns out to Palazzo this weekend. It's going to be awesome. Juan always runs a great tournament. He's always fair to the players, and always really does a great job. I think it's a good opportunity to kind of expand chess locally. I have an excellent feeling about this. I think this is a really good opportunity for chess in Las Vegas to get like kind of a company that their whole objective is just to promote mind sports. When your name of the company is Mind Sports International, you could tell they obviously are going to care about chess, since chess is probably the biggest mind sport. no real reason to debate if it's a sport or not in this context right now. But anyway, it's obvious that they're going to take this seriously because their whole company is based on mind sports. So it sounds like this is a great opportunity for us, and hopefully it's a good pairing, and hopefully it's a marriage that'll last long and bring us both parties lots of happiness. So anyway, this is Ryan Phillips. I don't like the red font. Go with the blue font. This is Ryan Phillips signing off, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.